This conference will now be recorded.
Hey everybody, this is Dr. Doug Smith. It is 2:30 on a Tuesday, so it is time for our Monday through Thursday 2:30 podcast. This is the podcast where you will hear the science about what actually happened during this opioid crisis. And as our regular listeners know, I am on chapter 7 out of 9 chapters of the book, and I can see the end of the book. There will then be an editing process, and then we got to figure out how to get the graphics, the images into the book, and the bibliography. There'll still be some work to do, but the book will have been written. And as I'm going through the book, I'm going through a whole bunch of old images that from several years ago that, quite frankly, I'd forgotten about, and this is one of them. And this must be, gosh, 2018, 2019. I'm not sure exactly how old this is, but this was when we developed our idea. At the time, I was calling it Smith hypothesis. I don't use that term much anymore. But what you're looking at on top is normal DNA, and normal DNA. That's that double-stranded, looks like a twisted ladder, and normal DNA makes a normal opioid receptor, and normal opioid receptor functions normally inside the individual. And then look down below, and you'll see the DNA, and you'll see the methylation. It's the C with the 3 H's. There's 3 of them on there. We added 3. Okay, and so you see on top there is no methylation. You see on bottom you see the methylation, and then the area of the DNA under the methylation is blacked out. It's turned off. That's what we're trying to show there. It's turned off. Okay, that's what methylation does. It turns off parts of the DNA, what are called silent regions, DNA silencing, gene silencing. And then what we're trying to show is that once you get some of your DNA turned off, it makes an abnormal receptor. That's what the little dots on the receptor are. I wasn't really sure how to draw an abnormal receptor, and so that was what we came up with. And an abnormal receptor is functioning in the body abnormally. That's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. There it is right there. It's not that hard to understand. Okay, when you take the opioids, you get methylated. When you take the opioids, that little C with the 3 H's, that carbon with the 3 hydrogens, it gets added to the DNA. It gets added to very specific sites. Those specific sites are called CPG islands. Okay, just you don't need to know all that stuff. It gets added to the DNA, and it turns off part of the DNA. And if you turn off enough DNA, you're eventually going to turn off something important. And that's what happened to you. Something important got turned off. Okay, and something that receptor needed something that it didn't get. A widget, a part. Imagine you were missing an important part on your car. Imagine you're missing a steering wheel and you had to go to the grocery store, but you didn't have a steering wheel. How are you going to get to the grocery store without a steering wheel? You miss an important enough part, and you take the steering wheel off your car, and it's not going to function normally. You take one of the wheels off your car, it's not going to function normally. Okay? This time of year, you take the air conditioning out of your car, it's not going to function normally. I'm old enough that it was a coin cost whether or not you had air conditioning in your car growing up. And we got by okay. You roll the windows down. We got by okay. Weren't as many stoplights. You got by okay. Anyway, that's not what this podcast is about. This podcast is not about air conditioning. But what this podcast is about if you're missing something important on that receptor, it's not going to function normally. Just like if you're missing something important on your car, it's not going to function normally. Okay, these are not tough concepts. Why aren't you driving your car? It doesn't have a steering wheel. Why aren't you driving your car? It doesn't have a tire. Okay, why aren't you driving your car? It doesn't have an engine. Okay, you're missing something important on your car, it's not going to function. Same thing with that receptor. Okay, now what it is that's missing on that receptor, we don't know yet. We're close, but we don't know yet. We will figure it out. Okay, but that receptor is missing something important. And the reason it's missing something important is, well, something important got turned off. Those little black areas on the DNA, that's areas that got turned off. You turn off enough areas, you're eventually going to turn off something important, something that was needed. Okay, why it means you get sick when you try to stop taking the opioids, we don't know. Why taking another opioid helps, it makes you feel better for at least for a while, we don't know. We don't know this stuff. Okay, and by the way, I make the point in the book. That area of the DNA you're looking at right there, that area is 450 million years old. You don't really mucking around with your DNA. You don't want to be messing around with your DNA at all. But you don't want to be mucking around with 450 million year old DNA at all. Okay, you're into the fundamentals of life. Why were your symptoms so severe? Because the area of the DNA that was damaged is an area that is fundamental to life. Why did you feel the way you did? Because the area that was damaged is fundamental to life. Okay, you don't want to mess around with areas that are fundamental to life. 450 million year old DNA. Okay, that goes back before we even had hinged jaws. That's how old that DNA is. Okay, it's about the same age as hinged jaws. Look at life around you. Okay, look at what has a hinged jaw, which is about everything. And look at what doesn't have a hinged jaw, which is, earthworms, snails, slugs. Okay. Primitive life doesn't have a hinged jaw. More advanced life does have a hinged jaw. Fish have hinged jaws. Okay. Obviously, that hinged jaw happened before life crawled out of the ocean. Well, so did this opioid receptor. It happened before life crawled out of the ocean. That's how old this stuff is. You don't want to be messing around with this stuff. Anyway, we will hold here for today. I was happy to find this image. I think I am going to use this image in the book. Very happy with the book. I hope you guys like the book. I'm doing my best. I always try to do my best, but I'm doing my best. I'm trying to make it meaningful for everybody. Looks like it's going to be about 9 chapters, and I'm on the 7th chapter now, so I can see the end. I'm getting there. So we'll hold here for today. We'll be back tomorrow. Everybody have a good afternoon, good evening. Let me hear from you. I want to hear from you. Okay, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. Don't forget to post this podcast on your social media and everybody else's social media. Let's get the word out there. Okay, I'm hopeful that a number of you are going to want to be the pathfinders, the lamplighters, those who want to lead the way. You want to show leadership, or you just want revenge against pharmaceutical companies for what they did to you. Okay, but those of you who want to be among the first to file the mass tort lawsuits, okay, all you got to do is help us sell 10 books. Sell 10 books. Have a little get together with some friends, or post it on your social media. Whatever you got to do to sell 10 books. Okay, I'm not gonna start selling books until we start the editing process, and then we'll start a pre-sale process. Okay, because it's already August, but we're gonna get these lawsuits filed this year. Everybody have a great afternoon, and we'll see y'all tomorrow. Thanks. Bye-bye.